Tonda Thompson. She is one of our regional consultants, and today we're talking about fluency within 100.
Okay, thank you, Kelly. I'm super excited to be here. The only problem I had was when they told me it was just 30 minutes because kind of when I get talking about math, sometimes I don't know when to stop. But anyway, I will definitely try my best to stay within the guidelines of 30 minutes. I hope everyone is well. I saw Laura had sunshine there in her county. It's still cloudy here, but no rain, so I'll take that. And everyone's here together thinking and talking about math and how can we support our teachers and how can we support our parents. So thank you so much for joining in, because the whole purpose of this week and the weeks to come is to try to reach out to all of our teachers and hopefully support you where you can do a better job of supporting your parents. So welcome to Fluency Within 100. We have had a building block all week, so we have worked our way up today to Fluency Within 100. So please feel free at any time to share anything that you may have that the rest of us could also learn from you. So, okay, and getting started. There I am with short hair. I am your host, Tonda Thompson, as Kelly once said. So let's just jump right in. So again, here we are. Who are we? The Kentucky Center for Mathematics. And our sole purpose is to support teachers and support parents, students throughout our Commonwealth and beyond. So as you can see there with the numbers, we have tried to, and we have had an opportunity to meet with a lot of teachers throughout our whole state, and we hope to continue that. A website that that Kelly referenced earlier is the KentuckyMathematics.org, and from that site you will be able to see our resources, which is wonderful because they're actually free resources and for anyone to use. So please make sure you visit that website as well. So the agenda today: where's the research? Where do the standards live when we're talking about addition, subtraction within 100, the fluency? There are going to be some video using the math rack, or make a virtual make and takes today, or move along, 10 more or 10 less, make my number, and then there will be time hopefully for some questions or comments. So again, when we look at the research with procedural fluency, a lot of times we tend to think about, and hopefully this will help parents too, realize that that doesn't mean just fast or automatic, but speed is a part of that being efficient. So when we're thinking about fluency, we want to make sure that we have the accuracy, the efficiency, and the flexibility and kids have that. And so, which includes, if you will look, it does include speed, but it also includes appropriate strategies or some type of an algorithm, and being able to be flexible with choosing, because that's the whole purpose of having more than one strategy, is because not one single strategy is the most efficient for every problem that kids encounter. So it is important that they have several strategies in their toolbox or in their tool belt, in which we like to call that. So that's the whole purpose of this. And hopefully getting this out to parents so they can see the importance of why we do what we do with the place value, addition, and subtraction strategies versus just the stack and add. I kind of wanted to give you a little bit of history of the manipulatives, and the purpose for this was because I have encountered a lot of people who say new math, and I think it's not really new. We have been doing this forever. So when we look back at using manipulatives, we think this is maybe something that's for preschool, for kindergarten, maybe some use in first grade, but beyond, should we be using it? So when we look at it, look at the ancient civilization of Asia. They used counting boards. The Romans modified it and made the first abacus. The Chinese abacus came from the adaptation of the Roman abacus, and continued on into the late 1800s, where we saw the invention of the first true manipulatives for teaching mathematical concepts. And then since then, the early 1900s, the manipulatives have come to be considered essential in teaching mathematics. And I love this, at all grade levels, because it's not just a preschool or kindergarten thing that we do, but we need, when we first introduce a new concept, we need to make sure that kids have that conceptual understanding and they can actually see the math. So again, why do we use these types of manipulatives or tools? And today I'm going to be talking about just one specific tool, and that's the math rack, and it's actually the 100 math rack. But there's lots of other, and I don't want us to lead the misconception that this is the best or the only tool, but this is one of the tools within 30 minutes that we're going to talk about today. So all of our tools, our math tools, are needed for kids to actually have that deep understanding of the number in which we want them to understand. So again, today we will be talking about the 100 math rack. I did like this part, and I put this in there too because as teachers, we probably already understand these stages in which we move kids from the concrete to the abstract, but maybe our parents don't at this point in time. And who are the teachers to our students right now? And that's the parents, or a grandparent, or someone who is a child caretaker that's helping to deliver this type of instruction. So we want them to understand it's really important to use some things that they have at home. And there are things, or even the visuals that we're going to look again at the 100 rack where we can see it online. So we want to make sure that we move the children from the concrete to the representational stage, which is more the pictorial. And I've seen a lot of teachers think if they have the pictures, that is a concrete. They can see the hearts, or they can see a picture of a bead rack, but it's not really the same as being able being able to manipulate it. And then, of course, we want our kids to be at that abstract stage. So we don't want to leave them there. We actually want to move them through all three of these stages. The standards that we're going to be looking at today, we're going to be talking about the NBT5, which is fluently add and subtract within 100, using strategies based on place value, properties of operation, and relationship between addition and subtraction. And also we're going to be talking about, kids being able to explain their work. And I think that's so important that it's not just about adding two digits, placing one digit and carrying the other digit, but can they truly talk about and explain their thinking? So I kind of like to think about it as in technology for myself. If I have to explain to someone else how to use Zoom, it says you only truly understand it when you can explain it to someone else. Well, guess what? I can't explain it to you because I truly don't have a good understanding. I could fiddle around with it and finally figure out how it works, but don't ask me to explain it to anyone because I can't do that yet. But we want kids to be able to do that, because when they can explain their thinking, they're truly understanding. So we have reached out and asked permission to use the activities that I'm going to share with you today. And they're going to be coming from working with the 100 bead rack from Didax. So we have asked for permission. So the three activities will be coming from this book. No, I do not work for them, but we do share this book with them with some of our trainings that we do throughout the state. And it has some really good activities for grades 1 through 3. It even continues on with some division, multiplication, and those types of activities that you can continue on with the progression in there. Just one resource that you could use for teaching addition and subtraction. Doesn't mean it's the only one. It's just one that we're using today. So most of you probably are comfortable, if you're teachers, using the math rack, but how do we help parents with that? So as a teacher, we need to be able to reach out and say, how do we use this thing? And I know we're all familiar with Graham Fletcher and his progressions of mathematics, but I found a YouTube video where he is actually kind of showing why we use the math rack, and a little bit of a lesson in where he is actually using it with the child. So I thought this might be a good introduction for parents who maybe have had no understanding of what to do with that rack other than just count by ones. So I'm going to share that with you, so you will have that video as well that you can share with your parents. And I'm not going to watch the whole thing.
Mathematics.
So don't panic. It's just
today we're just going to give a brief rundown of what the Rec and Rec is, whether or not you have been using it in your class. This might just be a little refresher for you, but those of you that the Rec and Rec is new to, once you start integrating it within your classroom, your students are definitely going to be on their way to making sense of number. And that's what we need our students to start doing, is just increasing their sense of numeracy. So let's go ahead and dive right in. What is the Rec and Rec? Well, this is what a Rec and Rec looks like. And as you look at the screen, go ahead and take a mental picture of some things that you recognize. Well, some of the things you might have recognized is that there's 20 beads, 2 rows of 10, 10 red, 10 white, 4 groups of 5, and lots more. And as your students start using the Rec and Rec, they're going to be able to recognize and share the things that they recognize, which is beautiful. And it allows the students to start constructing their own sense of number and what they understand. So why do we want to use the Rec and Rec? Well, the first thing that comes to mind is the 8 mathematical practices as we dive into the Common Core standards. And there's 3 in specific that really stand out to me. And the first is reason abstractly and quantitatively. When students start using the Rec and Rec, they're going to be able to go think outside the box and test theories and hypotheses in terms of what might make a 5 or what might make a 4. And this trial and error, it's not using a piece of paper where they're scribbling out. They're allowed to test ideas, which is beautiful. Modeling with the mathematics, well, it's a manipulative, it's a tool, which is another great use of the Rec and Rec. And the last is look for and make sense of structure. And we'll kind of dive into that a little bit more in a second. But students are going to be able to see that within the number 10 that there are 2 5s because of that there's 5 red and 5 white beads on that top row. And another reason why, well, some of the state standards, Common Core standards from kindergarten through 2nd grade. In kindergarten, students are supposed to be fluent from 0 to facts under 5. 1st grade is facts to 10. And 2nd grade is facts to 20. And that's what makes the Rec and Rec so powerful, is that it's a tool that students can continuously build on from kindergarten to 2nd grade. And then beyond there, if we extend the Rec and Rec to have beads of 100 beads or more. Another thing is that students are going to be able to increase their numbers and operations in base 10 cents. And what that means is that students in kindergarten and 1st grade have a very difficult time unitizing. What unitizing is a student's ability to be able to recognize that in the number 10, there lies 10 ones, and that 10 can be decomposed. And also, the number 13 is 10 and 3 more. And this foundation in number sense is beautifully, explicitly able to be modeled through the Rec and Rec. So it connects. So this is just one example of how the Rec and Rec connects and ties it all together. Say we look at the number 5, we're going to dive into, just look at it, and it talks about hierarchical inclusion. And hierarchical inclusion, you're probably thinking, what on earth is that? And what it means is that within the number 5, students see that 5 is 1 more than 4, and that 4 is nested within the 5. So it allows them to see, just looking at numbers a little bit differently. It also allows them to see the numbers inside the number conservation. And what number conservation is when you take a number, you can break it up as many ways as you want to. The number, the quantity, the total quantity, that part whole still stays the same. 5 just isn't 5. 5 is 5 plus 0 and much more. And our students need to see that 5 can be decomposed. Here's an example.
All right, Reese, go ahead and make 5 for me another way. You already have that way. You made that way on the other side of your paper. So what's another way you could make 5?
Yes.
What are you thinking of, sweetheart? What do you think?
We're making
We are making 5, yeah. Okay, is that right? How do you know it's right? Four on the top and 1 on the bottom, and how many does that make?
5.
5? Okay. You sure? How do you know?
Because 4 plus 1 is 5.
Okay, that works for me, buddy. Go ahead and put it on your sheet.
You call me a boy.
A buddy. Awesome. Okay, now how can you make 5? You have to make 5 a different way.
Oh, okay. Stop, Jeremiah. Don't do that, honey.
Why did you do that?
Flip-flopped it.
What did you do?
Flip-flopped it.
You flip-flopped it. I love it. Okay, go ahead and put it on your paper.
I do.
All right, 4, 2, 4.
You said you don't. I do.
Good job, buddy.
Okay, that was just one example. Of course, they were using within the 5, but you could do the same thing if you ask a child to make the number 43 or 25 or those types of things. And some of those types of activities are also in the 100 bead rack and rack book.
Tonda?
Yes.
Tonda, there, you would not believe what's going on in chat. There are some really, really great ideas on ways that folks are, that they use their Rec and Rec. I think maybe it might be a great time just to have some folks unmute.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, and one of the things when you unmute, say this is, for example, this is Christy Manley from Jefferson County, Louisville, and share. So Christy, if you wouldn't mind,
Yes,
if you go ahead and go first.
absolutely. Please. Wonderful.
All right, this is Christy Manley. I work in Jefferson County, and I use the Rec and Rec for everything. I think it gets really used the most when I start doing like teaching the big doubles, and I'm wanting them to make that connection to the 10 plus.
Yes.
And then even when you want to do the 10 more, 10 less, or getting that foundation to rounding, how many more to the next decable. So if they build 43, how much to get to 50,
Yes.
those kinds of things.
Yes.
And they can use it for rounding to have a visual, since rounding is one of those hard skills.
Absolutely. Yes.
I love the Rec and Rec.
Yes, that's wonderful. Thank you, Christy. I must have gotten those activities that I'm sharing today from you, because that's pretty much what I'm doing today, is how do you get to that next decable at 10 more, 10 less. So maybe I got those from you. Thank you so much for sharing, Christy. Anyone else? And like Christy said, I mean, there are so many ways to use this rack. Hopefully in that video, and there's some, he goes on to talk to them about using even up to 20. So I was thinking maybe that video would be something that you could share with your parents, and maybe parents would understand, how do I use this rack? Because we're going to look at the virtual 100 rack as well too. So if they have internet, then they should be able to access that rack if they don't want to make one. And we make them a lot using just the elastic and the 2 color beads. And I think probably most of you in Kentucky with teachers have probably done that. And you just make the 2 color beads and you put it on the plastic or put it on the elastic, and you just tie it around even a marker board or whatever type of board. But I love the marker board, because then you can scoot the beads up and you can actually do the word problem, your number expression at the bottom on the same board, dry erase, and then you can erase it and do another one. So that's just one way in which you can use that. Anyone else want to share anything exciting that maybe you've done with the math rack? Because I know you have lots of wonderful ideas, and we're here to learn from you as well.
Hey, Tonda, this is Dee. A couple people put in the chat box some things about the assessing and advancing questions that he used, and sort of paying attention to it's not just about what they see on the B, but it's the questioning that actually pulled out some of the magic in the child's thinking.
Absolutely. That's so powerful. Absolutely. It is not just about just doing some type of a process, but it's how can we ask those questions that gets kids to think and to discover their own thinking and their own mathematical reasoning and how they use numbers. So absolutely. Thank you so much, whoever shared that. Thank you. Okay, so Move Along is one of the games that I'm sharing, and I think it's kind of like what Christy was talking about in this game, and it also came from the book, and I want to share with you. It's just kind of like, this is really not a game, but it's just an activity, and it's a way for kids to practice using addition, a place value addition, and also using the math rack to help with that. So I'm going to kind of give you an example here. Let's see if that's embedded. Okay, so here's my virtual math rack. So for example, in the activity, it says, the first one says start with 24. So if they want to use the virtual math rack, they can start with 24. And it says make 60. So if I have 24, what can I do to make 60? And it's like Christy said, how many more to the next decable number? So I know I have 6 here. So what I like for kids to do is when they push that 6, don't connect it completely, because I want them to see that's a part of this next group that they're adding to. It's that next part, that part whole. So I started with 24. I added 6 to get to my 30. So now I need 10 to be 40, and another 10 to be 50, and another 10 to be 60. So now I can see that I had 3 10s and a 6, which is 36. So if I started with 24, I can add 36, and that will get me. And so we really want the kids to be able to see, they're probably not going to choose that way at the very beginning, but that goes back to what someone was saying in the chat. It's all about then the questioning. What would be another way we could get to 60? We need to watch to see, are they counting by ones? Are they using grouping as they're counting? So those are all such wonderful, wonderful ideas and comments that you're making, and I appreciate that a lot. So any questions on that part? Okay, so okay, here, hang on. Okay, so that one is one of the activities that's just called Move Along. So at each time that you answer, then the next one says you have 16, can you make 60? So, and then each time they play, what I have found is the more times that you play or you do an activity, the more automatic they kind of become, or even more fluent, because they're starting to think of more than one way how I can get to 70 or how I can get to 90. So more than one way how to get there. Okay, another one, and like I told Christy, I mean, she and I were thinking the same thing, 10 more or 10 less. So again, we can go to the math rack, we can go to the virtual math rack, and there are the number cards that I put in the PDF, because if we're pushing these out to parents, they may not have the cards. So I did add the cards as well, so they can just print them off and cut them apart. They will have a number. So basically what they're going to do is someone's going to hold up a number and say, show me 10 more or show me 10 less. So when they do that, again, here's your math rack, your virtual. So maybe it might say, show me 30 And again, even pushing on the math rack, you want the kids to be able to start pushing in a group, and it could be a group of 5 or a group of 10, and you could talk about how could you do that with less pushes? Who could make that number with the least amount of pushes? So make sure that those are some of the questioning too that you ask. So if I have 30, how much would 10 less be? So then the child can just know that less means to take off, and that's 20. And what I like about this one is then they write a number sentence that goes along with what operation they just performed, or the greater than less than I think this activity is. So 30, or we could say 20 is less than 30 because we first made 30, now we have 20. So I kind of like that activity. Is really a neat way for kids to start to get into it and take a look at it. So, okay. Okay, and then the next one here, I kind of like that. Oh, what I was wanting to talk about with this one here, the 10 more, 10 less. Another thing that we could also think about is having kids to verbally be able to count by 10s off the decable, which means off of that multiple of 10. Because when kids are asked, can you count by 10s, they're usually like, sure, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. But we want them to be able to say, what's 22 plus 10, 22, 32, 42, 52, and to always start with different numbers versus just a decable number. And as we know, when you start with a teen number, or you start with a single digit, like in the ones, like a 2, it's hard for kids sometimes to say 2, 12, 22. So let's don't forget on that we have that verbal sequence. And then we've got the quantity with the 100 rack to help support that type of thinking. Okay, anyone else have any questions on that one? Anything you want to add? Okay, we'll move right along. I'm kind of keeping track of my time because I know your time is precious as well. Like I said, again, it's hard for me to get everything in just 30 minutes. This one is more of a start with 40, make 75. And also it will come with some cards, and you will have 2 levels of cards. So one of the levels will just be something like adding a 10 or adding 5. And then the other ones will be how, if I have 32, how do I get to 47? So it's a little bit, it goes up in level, the range of the numbers increase with the cards. So I have included those. Let's see. And again, the virtual, I had it where they can just click there and they can get the virtual 100 rack onto that one. And let's see. Okay, before we finish, I did have an opportunity to see the 100 rack in action in one of the classrooms. So I want to just kind of share with you a little bit. It says about a minute and something clip before we leave to let you see the math rack in the regular classroom as well. Oh, sorry. Go back to that. So tell me what you're doing here. Can you read the task for me?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
The farmer has 18 pigs, 12 cows, and 32 chickens. How many animals live on the farm?
Oh, that's great. Can you show me how you work that out?
Yeah.
Okay. What are you doing now?
I'm doing it by tens.
Okay.
But on the second one, I'm doing it 8.
Okay. And so what does this number here represent? Why did you push that?
Because it says 18 on the front.
Gotcha. Okay. Keep going.
And now I'm going to do 12.
Okay.
Now I'm going to do 32. And now I'm going to count it.
Okay. Now is that 32 that you just pushed? I see 30.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay. Now what are you going to do?
I'm going to add it together and count it.
Okay.
28, 30, 40, 50, 60, 62.
Very good. That's awesome.
Okay, and if you notice in that clip, I thought it was interesting when he would push 2, he didn't go back up to that first collection of 18 and use the 2. So there's a lot of questioning that we could even ask the child, do a lot of questioning from just this one task that he completed. Did anyone else notice anything that you wanted to share just from the clip? Okay, so we all know that there's just a lot of things that even we could continue with him at this point in time. And it really, when we see how kids are thinking and how they're using the tools, it kind of gives us a lot of insight into their own thinking and how can the next question we ask lead them to even more information and a higher way of thinking. Okay. Again, back to our website. And as Kelly mentioned before, they also now have a link for our viral make and takes or virtual make and takes. So that's easy access for you. Tomorrow, I hope you'll join us again because we're going to be doing fluency with multiplication and division. So that should be extremely awesome. And it's really great when we can all get together and share some math all to help all of our kids. Does anyone have any questions for me?
We always end our KCM sessions with a little bit of positive input. And so what I would love is for you to unmute your mic if you've got a couple comments here at the end, or maybe even a shout outs for Tonda. She worked really hard in getting this presentation together to give us the resources that we need for our teachers in Kentucky and across the nation.
Thank you all so much.
I just want to thank you guys all for sharing and taking the time to do this. It's great reminders. It's great information. I love all the resources that I've been able to share with my families and other teachers.
Thank you, Amy. Thank you so much. Thank you for those kind words.
Yeah, great job, Tonda, and we really appreciate all the great ideas. We do have a question.
Sure.
We noticed that in the video that there were some activity task cards. Is that included in the make and take?
It is.
It is? Okay, great. My sister's here with me. We're both teachers, so.
Yes, it should all be in there. And actually, I think I did add a little of the story problems as well.
That's what we needed. Thank you.
Yep, I added those too, even though I didn't talk about them. Like I said, 30 minutes is kind of hard to get everything you want to say in, but yes, thank you for that.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, sometimes I have a hard time manipulating 2 or 3 screens at once.
No worries. Thank you.
All right, God bless, and you all have a great evening.
Thank you. You too.
So KCM is producing a series of videos. We're doing it every Tuesday at 2 o'clock. We hope that you join us. Up next is Bonnie Davenport tomorrow. She's doing multiplication and division. All of our stuff can be viewed asynchronously on our website. That's that virtual web page. We added that. Tonda, do me a favor and click back to that virtual web page.
Oh, sorry.
You're okay. You're okay. It's all right. So you can always find it on our virtual web page. And we sure do thank you so much for tuning in today. See ya.